But I want to talk about a true patriot I'm going to give you right now. My brother from another mother. Richard Mourdock. Thank you very much. You know, it's been my great privilege to be on about 4 or 5 stages now with Tony. And every time I hear him speak, he just inspires me. He really does. Do you know how much courage it takes for this man to come out here as a black American, not an African American, as a black American, but as he would say, as first and foremost, an American. This is a brave man. But he is, as he just said, and I know him because of these different times I've been with him. This is a guy who is inspired by love of country. Just a few weeks ago, we were right here in the same place. And the Tea Party folks were gathered, and there were a bunch of protesters that showed up right over there where that Todd Young sign is, right next to the tree. And they saw Tony, and they weren't running up to them, running up to Tony, because they thought, boy, they'd found a compatriot there. What happened next was fun to watch. Tony set them straight. Great fun. To put it in a few simple words, he explained to them that stereotyping is not good, and he didn't like to be stereotyped by what they were assuming about Tony Rutherford. You know, some people say of politicians, we never stop campaigning, and maybe that's true. But election day now, just a couple days away, I have to tell you, this is my last speech before election day. And I don't know how many hundreds of speeches I've given, but literally it is hundreds. And I just want to share one thought with you. By the way, when I said something to my wife on the way over here about this being the last speech, she said, oh no, it won't. You'll be at a lot of doorsteps. Okay, it's my last speech with an actual microphone in my hand. But I do just want to share one thought with you, so that you understand, if you've never been a candidate, a bit what it's like. You know, I'm a huge sports fan, huge racing fan. And the truth is, even though I used to race, even though I loved it, there's no way I would ever come around that 4th turn at Indianapolis and see the white flag saying one more lap to go. As much of a Colts fan as I am, I'll never get to reach down under Jeff Saturday and take that snap and go to the knee in the victory formation and watch those last few seconds go off the clock. But a couple years ago, I did have something happen that can put this in perspective. I ran down a long slope that was about 4 miles long, went through a little valley, came up, made a left turn onto Boylston Street in downtown Boston. And I could see about 3/4 of a mile in the distance an arch of balloons that indicated the end of the Boston Marathon. That's what I feel right now. You know, it's been a long run. I'm a little bit tired. I'm a little bit fatigued. I know Todd, I know Mike is, I know Rhonda is. But you can't understand it unless you've done it, this feeling, this just absolute elation, joy knowing what's coming, and yet appreciating all those folks, the thousands who've been cheering for you, because if it hadn't been for them, you wouldn't have gotten to that place. Thank you all. This is the 3rd or 4th time, and the voice is going. This is the 3rd or 4th time I've stood here to speak to a crowd. And I want to make a couple comments, especially to those of you who are here today in the Tea Party, because this part of Indiana has one of the best Tea Party organizations in the entire state of Indiana. You've been here when it's been cold and rainy. Just about a year ago, we stood here in the rain and the damp. You were out in the summer in the heat and the humidity. And you have been out because of one simple reason. Some people say it's anger, but they're wrong. It isn't anger. I know what it is. It's fear. You fear what's happening to your country. And I understand why. We have seen a national administration moving us further and further to the left, despite what the American people want. Historical fact. Historical fact, it took us 207 years as a nation to achieve $3 trillion in debt, and that's disgraceful. But what's even worse, it took Barack Obama 21 months to add another $3 trillion onto that level of debt. That is disgraceful. But you know, especially those of you who are the Tea Party patriots, those of you who know your history, those of you who have studied the Constitution, and I know you're doing it, you know what I know, which is the genius of our founding fathers put them not just ahead of their time, but all these years later, they remain ahead of our time. You know, they did something I don't know that any of us would have been smart enough to do. They saw what had happened in 1776 through 1783. They saw the growth, the incredible demand that the American people had for basic freedom. And they decided that that great revolution that they had given this country was going to be allowed to happen again. Every first Tuesday after the first Monday in November of every even-numbered year, and we're almost there. And it's going to be a revolution. It has been my incredible privilege to work in state government in the last 4 years. You know, we have the greatest governor in the United States in Mitch Daniels. And people wonder, how did that happen? Is it by accident? Just some guy gets in an RV and travels around the state and gives speeches? That's not how it happens. It takes an organization. It takes great Republican leadership who work behind the scenes to bring the right candidates along, to move them in place, and to get them elected. And all of you in the 9th District should take special pride that one of those Republican leaders is the National Republican Committee woman from Indiana who is from the 9th District, Dee Dee Benke. Where is Dee Dee? Wave your hand back here, Dee Dee. Because of the efforts of Dee Dee and our Republican committee and local county chairman, we saw Mitch Daniels elected, and look at the results, my friends. You know, I just wish the people in Washington, D.C. would finally get it in their head that, you know what, it might be possible to have a government that works under a balanced budget. It might be possible to have a government where the number of employees on the payroll is actually going down, where taxes are being capped or cut, where the cost of government is being reduced. You would think they might want to see such an example. And you know where they can find that example? You know where they can look? Right here in Indiana, because that's what we've done. But as successful as Indiana has been, make no mistake about it, over the next several days, tell your friends, tell your neighbors another fact, a historical fact, and that is that every time Mitch Daniels and the Republicans in the State House have tried to move this state forward, there's been a guy by the name of Pat Bauer who's saying, no, you don't. Property tax caps, you can't have that. Cut the budget, you can't have that. You know, if Pat Bauer had had his way, this state would have been broke last December, and by now we would be more than $1 billion, with a B, $1 billion in debt. That's the budget they wanted. Well, guess what? You get to send a message to Pat Bauer on November 2nd. And the best message you can send from this area is in District 70, your new state representative should be Rhonda Rhodes. Get it done! You know, Rhonda Rhodes is running against a guy who's been in office for 32 years. 32 years. Can any of you name one accomplishment? Vote for Rhonda Rhodes. Get it done. That's what it's about. Need to make one more point before I pass the microphone over here. And that is that all that is happening in the United States of America, too, in that first Tuesday after the first Monday in November of this even number year, guess what? You get to be part of history. Because I think this coming Tuesday, we are going to see a historical event. The 2008 elections had barely closed. I don't think the inauguration had even taken place yet. And I got a call in my office from a young man I had never met, and he asked if he could meet with me, and I said sure, and he came in the office, and he said, hi, my name's Todd Young, I want to run for Congress, will you help me? That was a long time ago. That was a long time ago. This morning I had the privilege of introducing a state rep candidate over in Seymour who has something in common with Todd. They're both Marines. Now you may have learned, you may know, that no one is ever referred to as an ex-Marine or a former Marine. They're always a Marine. Jim Lucas over in Seymour said, well, if you got to put one label on us, just call us dormant Marines. We're just waiting for a fight. That's Todd Young, a dormant Marine. Ladies and gentlemen, you get to be part of history. It is no more Swill from Hill. It is no more Barron taking wild shots at his audience at a public meeting. Guess what? It's your office. It's your meeting. It's your next Congressman, Todd Young.